Hello, and welcome back to Rejuvenated Women, Impeccable Health for High-Performing Women. This is episode 53, and I am very excited today to be joined by executive life coach Kate Hutson. And Kate specializes in helping women find that powerful mindset and really take bold action in their life. And I'm so excited for this conversation. She's the founder of Shattered Glass Coaching. And Kate, I'll let you just introduce yourself real quick, but welcome to the show.
Thank you, Alex. I'm excited to be here. I am a certified life coach. I work with professional women who are looking to increase their confidence and really make a change so that they can either switch careers or advance in their own career that they currently have, or just get unstuck from whatever life situation they're in so that they can live a life that's more happy, more fulfilling, in their true desires.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to, dive into this concept with you because we were, chatting for just a minute before we started here. But part of what I find in the women that I work with is lots of you and listeners, I'm sure this is you too, are going through major transitions with career or with, what life has looked like up to this point, or maybe there's, like, in my own story, part of my healing journey was getting a divorce. There can be big things that are necessary for us to take action on in order to heal and move forward. So I think, what we're going to talk about today can be applied to multiple multiple things, but I'm excited to just dive into this. So, I guess I'll let you kind of take it away, Kate, because I know you have some ideas around like where you want to go, and how. Let's start with, like, how do we really cultivate and develop that bold mindset where we can get unstuck and not stay, in a bad situation, or my kid's going to sing in the background, or in whatever's holding us back and keeping us from moving forward, and maybe, finally actually healing our bodies in the process.
Yeah, and I think that the first step is to get clear on what it is you really want,
Yeah.
which is easy and hard at the same time.
Mhm.
I found that a lot of the women I worked with have big dreams and big goals, but are scared to articulate them or even verbalize them because of this fear of failure. And getting down to what you really, really want, and if you could wave a magic wand, the results that you want and what you want out of your life, I think is step one. And a lot of women who already journal and meditate might have some version of this already. But the first thing I always recommend to clients who want to work on taking bold action is do a brain dump where you write down everything you want out of your life. Like, where do you want to wake up? What city do you want to be in? What job do you want? What do you want your body to look like? Who's your partner? And get as specific as possible. And you might not have all the answers, right? Like, we don't have it all figured out, but really getting clear on, like, what do you want out of your life? I think is step one, and getting comfortable with, like, this is what I want. Even if I'm scared to get it, here's what I'm going for. That's step one. And then I like to call it reverse engineering, is
Mhm.
start working backwards and thinking, what would the person who has that life, what would be the steps that they would take, big or small? And it's almost like playing a trick on your brain,
Mhm.
because you're taking steps towards these goals without actually realizing that you are being bold. But so, for example, if I want to be living on the beach and I want to be an accomplished author and I want to be married to the man of my dreams, what are all the things I need to do to make that happen? I'm
Yeah.
not going to be, not sitting at my house laying in bed watching Netflix all day. There's certain steps you're going to take if you want to be a published author. If you want to, get married someday, you probably need to go on a date. So reverse engineering into the smallest steps possible, just to take small actions to move you towards your goal, is kind of a good starting place.
Yeah. I love that. And, and just listening to you kind of unpack that. So I do something similar with my clients where, when we start, usually it's a 6-month health program, but I ask them to, get really clear on their vision and what's the why and what are the goals. And I think so many of us, we can stay stuck in this cycle where you might have an idea of what that is, but you have no idea how to get there because you're running so fast on, I talk a lot about selfless syndrome, where we're constantly putting everything else first but ourselves. And so, we stay stuck on this treadmill, or it's like so scary we don't even want to touch it, or it's like such a big change. It's like I can't even handle that right now. So how do you what would you say to women who may be thinking about that? Like they may not even be able to get clear on like where am I going? What what is my life? What are my passions? What am like they've ignored themselves for so long they don't even know what that is anymore. Or B, I forgot what B was, so we'll just start there. Um,
Yeah, I think spending 10 or 15 minutes a day focusing on this is a crucial part of your day. And that could look different for anybody. That could be meditation. It could be, talking to a mentor or an accountability buddy. It could be journaling. It could be talking to yourself in the mirror. It could be prayer, some form of spirituality. But I think having 10 or 15 minutes a day of purposeful, intentional time where you are working on what do I want for myself? What's my vision? Not just overall, but for today.
mhm.
How can I take steps today that will get me closer? Um, and then rereading it to yourself out loud or speaking it out to yourself out loud every single day. It's a choice, and you can't just say, "I want this. I hope it happens." It's really about taking those 10 minutes every single day to get clear and purposeful and intentional.
Absolutely. And, I love that. Like a lot of times it's about just taking the smaller piece. Like if you can't get the whole vision, it's, being able to just like, okay, well, what about today? What about like this hour or this minute or this, in this like little chunk of time, what do I want that to look like? And starting to take some of that, I always say control is an illusion that we all like want, but but don't really have. But starting to take some, I guess, ownership would be a better word. Ownership of what your time is dedicated towards and what you're focusing on too, because a lot of this is, we're talking about focusing on something different. So rather than focusing on the 800 million things that you have on your to-do list because you just never get it all done, like focus on who do you want to be in this time, and who do you, what do you want to live into.
You're right. It's all about the identity that you hold for yourself. And an exercise I've done with a lot of women is I ask them, when did you feel like the bravest, most bold version of yourself? Was it the time that you peaked this mountain in Colorado? Was it when you graduated from your master's program? When were you the bravest, most bold version of you? And then we kind of talk through how that version of you exists all the time. You weren't a different person that day, the day that you summited the mountain, the day that you graduated from college, the day you landed your dream job. You weren't a different person. You're the same person. You are always that brave. You are always that bold. We just forget because we live our lives on autopilot and we get stuck going through the motions that we forget that I always am that bold version of myself. And so something I like to do with myself a lot is think through if I have a struggle or a challenge or an obstacle, looking at myself in the mirror and saying, what would the bold version of Kate do? What would like the brave version of me do? And even if I don't feel that way inside my heart in that moment, what are things I can do that the brave version of me would do?
I love it. That's awesome. You're reminding me, and I knew I was going to bring this up before we even started talking, but the quote by Marianne Williamson, this is like, it gives me chills every time I hear it, but I don't have it all memorized, but it basically says our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. And, it's about letting our light shine and not worrying about it impacting others, but allowing, when we really step into our boldness and our power, I think with our families and our jobs and our careers, like we give permission to others to do the same. And I love that concept. um
Me too. I love that quote. I have it actually on my wall.
Mine's my computer background. I start my program with it, like it's just, yeah, that one's always spoken to me. So, you know in terms of like developing this bold mindset, because I can imagine some women are listening to this and like, maybe scared even by what bold them would look like it can be, I've definitely worked with some women that when they finally take that first step, there's like this adrenaline rush and, just all this stuff that happens. But what suggestions do you have for, tapping into that bold side of ourselves?
I would encourage everyone to make a confidence menu of all of the things in life that make you feel confident. And this can be external confidence, any kind of confidence, however you want to define that. That could be going to a kickboxing class, maybe makes you feel strong and confident. Maybe it's putting on an outfit that you think you look sexy in. Maybe it's a spritz of perfume, even if you're not even leaving the house that day. Um, Maybe it's a conversation with a friend that she really hypes you up. Make a list of all of the things that make you feel confident, make you feel bold. It's going to change for everybody. And keep it somewhere where you can go back to it, reference it, read it. And when you're not feeling confident, pick something off the list and do it. And that's why I like coming up with a long list of a bunch of different things because, I might not be able to put on a really hot outfit right now, but I can probably like go for a run and that'll make me feel confident and good. And so just having these options of like, there are things in my life that I can do for myself to make me feel confident. I'm going to take control and I'm going to pick one and I'm going to do it because I have that choice for myself. And that just leads you down a path of creating a bolder mindset.
That's awesome. I love the concept of a confidence menu. That's something I haven't heard before because, I'll talk a lot about affirmations or, putting post-its up in the mirror and whatnot, but I really like that idea of like, here's the things that I just feel really confident on. Cool.
It works for other things as well. Like I also have a positivity menu of like things that make me feel more positive or happy.
Okay.
Um, like drinking my favorite kind of coffee and all of that. And so if I'm ever feeling down or I wake up on the wrong side of the bed, going to that menu and like what can I do to be more joyful today?
Awesome. I love that. These are all great tips. So we talked about kind of the first step, which was, getting really clear on that vision. So what comes next? What would you, maybe we'll do like 3 steps of
Sure.
what we would go through.
Breaking your vision down into the smallest possible steps that you possibly can and just doing one of them a day. Um, and it's really breaking down the vision you see for yourself and making it manageable. I'm not sure if you've seen, there's a visual where there's 2 ladders. And one of them has the rungs spread really far apart. And the guy in the picture, he can't reach them. They're spread too far apart. And then the ladder right next to it has rungs that are really close together. And so even though they're really close together, small rungs, he's able to climb it step by step, one at a time. And so if you're looking for a job in a new industry, or if you're looking to lose 25 pounds, whatever your goal is for yourself, let's break it down into, okay, what do I need to do over 4 weeks, 2 weeks, 1 week, 1 day? And the list is going to vary. It might be hire a health coach. It might be sign up for a gym membership. It might be visit the produce section of my grocery store, but really breaking it down into steps that you can take. And once you take that first step, just the first one, you're already going to be more confident in yourself, because you're doing something. And taking action to do anything is the next step once you're clear on what you want.
Yeah. And I really like that because it takes the overwhelm on it out of it. I think a lot of us, especially if you're feeling stuck or like I was just thinking about this the other day after I listened to another podcast and the concept of getting started, like it can be so hard to take that first step. And I think for a lot of us, we're making the step too big, like it's too high. And so if you were to break it down, even if it feels like, is that really, moving me towards my goal? Like absolutely. It definitely is. So I think that's
A
great.
former mentor of mine used to say, competence breeds confidence. And I love that because basically being able to do anything well or competently, makes you more sure of yourself. So if you start with, like you said, that really tiny step to get started that takes away the overwhelm, and you're competent at that one step, it makes you more confident to keep going. And so don't set the bar too high in the beginning. Start out with smaller steps and grow competent at them so you can be confident in the long run.
Absolutely. It's kind of like the concept of, well, they say it takes 10,000 repetitions in order to master anything. We talked about that all the time in chiropractic school with our adjusting. They're like, you're not going to be any good until you adjust 10,000 people. And I'm like, okay. But, there's some truth to that as well. And, same with, I think it took Einstein, 1,001 tries to invent the light bulb. Like, there's every action you take builds upon itself, and is leading us in a direction. I think it can be hard, especially, and we can talk about this maybe when we don't see results immediately, because this is something I hear from a lot of the women I work with. They're like, well, if I haven't lost 15 pounds by this date, like I'm not, I give up. Or if I haven't, if my energy is not up in like a day, then I'm not satisfied. I don't see. So we have that like instant gratification need. And so I wonder if you have any input around like how can we attach to something else that's moving us forward, that we're competent in, like you were talking about, and not be so focused on the end goal that we give up and get overwhelmed, if that makes
I think
sense.
it's a form of self-sabotage is how I view it, is that
Yeah.
if I'm not getting the results I want fast enough, then I'm just gonna give up because it's not working for me. But really, you're sabotaging yourself when you say that.
Yeah.
And being able to recognize that when those thoughts or emotions come up, as I'm not getting what I want enough, or there's these challenges, there's always going to be challenges. Everyone's going to have challenges in every aspect. And, like you said, Einstein 1001, you can't expect success to happen overnight.
Right.
And recognizing that that is a self-sabotaging thought, and recognizing it as such and not letting it take power or control over you. And instead saying, I know where this is coming from. I know this is self-sabotage. I'm going to move past it because meeting these goals is more important than this thought that I am having. And that self awareness that comes with that is huge.
Absolutely. And it's I think it's so interesting because it's kind of getting into what holds us back. If you're constantly like you have a big goal, right? And if you keep not meeting it, but you're self-sabotaging the whole time, and it could be, not seeing results right away, or getting frustrated, or, not really committing, or, not being honest with there can be so many things that go into this. I think it's really important to recognize that, and the real transformation will come with, you know, being willing to look at yourself and deal with yourself in the moment. And that's where obviously coaching and some other things could really come in hand in hand. And the other thought I had just along this is, there's never going to be the perfect time. And maybe we could talk about this. It's always like, well, I'm going to start this, after this happens, or at this point, or when my kids have graduated and left the house, or, whatever it is. There's never going to be a good time. Like, we have to start now. And you figure it out. So I would love some insight from you on like, how do we overcome that hurdle? Because that's one of the primary things I hear from people is like, well, it's not a good time right now.
Right,
I know I
right.
need this, but it's not a good time. Like, how do we get past that one?
Gosh, so years and years and years ago, before I was a life coach, I was a fourth grade teacher, actually.
Oh,
And
cool.
yeah, I did Teach for America. So I was teaching in a rural community in South Louisiana.
Okay.
And it was my first day teaching was maybe the scariest day of my life as far as my mindset. Want to talk about a not confident mindset going into it. And I was so scared. I thought, I'm not ready for this. Like, nothing could prepare me for this. And then I compare that to my second year teaching, when I came in and thought, like, I'm gonna rock this. I know what I'm doing. Like, I've got this. I had only been a teacher for 1 year. Like, I had no business feeling that confident. But it goes back to just getting started and showing up. And exactly like you said, there's never going to be a perfect time. You're never going to be ready. If you jumped into things that you were only 100% ready for, you would never grow and push yourself and stretch yourself. We only get better at our jobs and our health, in our mindset. We only get better by doing things that we haven't done before. And just because you don't know how to do them yet doesn't mean that you can't do them and you can't figure it out. So I figured out how to be a teacher. I figured out how to just show up and do the things I needed to do to build relationships with my students. And for anyone who's looking to do something new and is totally scared, showing up is the first thing you need to do, because that's the only way that you're going to grow, is by getting out of that comfort zone, taking off the bubble wrap, and just show up.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's such a key thing, is the growth mindset and growth mentality. Like, you have to be willing to take something on and just acknowledge that you're going to come out of it a completely different person than you currently are. And I think some people are terrified of that, but you don't need to be. Like I'm constantly, and I'm fairly young, I think, for having this mentality, but even since I was 24 and in chiropractic school, it's like, okay, how can I be a better version of myself? How can I challenge myself, push myself? And honestly, being a business owner and a doctor and a mom and a single mom for like all of that stuff, pushed me to grow and become who I am today. And, today is gonna push me in other ways. And I think, we have to be willing to just walk through and go through that, and with some intentionality, because when we don't stay, intent on ourselves and focus on ourselves, then we kind of lose that and just stay spiraling and stuck and never really get to where we're trying to go. Yeah.
For sure. And then the other thing I was going to add is that look at people in your life who do have the mindset that you want, or the career that you want, or whatever it is that you want. Look at people in your life, and if you don't have any immediate friends or family or colleagues, find somebody on social media or LinkedIn or whatever,
Yeah.
and ask if they'll talk to you. Ask if you can borrow 15 minutes of their time, and ask for their advice, ask for their opinions, ask how they got started on their journey, and borrow what they tell you and apply it to your own life. Because if they are this ideal vision of what you want for yourself, borrow that and apply it to yourself and see if you can use it to get yourself where they are. I mean, it worked for them. Um, that doesn't mean it's going to work for you 100% of the time, but use some of that strength. There's other people who have done what you want to do probably.
Yeah. And I think, that's another point that you're alluding to, is we don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like there are people out there who have probably, are doing what you want to do, or have had the journey that you're on and want to see to the end, or whatever it is. And I know I found this as probably a female more, but just the lack of confidence in, well, oh, so and so is already doing that, so I can't do that now. And it's like, no, there is so much need and so much, availability for each and every one of us, because we all have our unique story and our unique personality and our unique way of, approaching things and helping people, because most people, women I work with, are in kind of service-based life stuff. So yeah, just having the confidence to not feel like you have to be unique. You are unique already.
When I first started Shattered Glass Coaching, one of my biggest limiting beliefs was, where am I going to get clients? Who's going to sign up to work with me? Like, why would they choose to work with me? And it took me a while to realize there are thousands of coaches with clients who are signing up to work with them. Why would I be like the one coach that just nobody signs up to work with? Um, and I was comparing myself to coaches I was seeing on Instagram, and stuff like that. And comparison was just my thief at that time, the thief of my joy at that time. But yeah, that was one of my biggest limiting beliefs, is like, out of all the coaches, why are they going to choose to work with me? And I had to flip that belief to think, okay, there's a lot of coaches that have clients. Like, I'm going to find clients too.
Yeah. And sometimes this brings up another part. I talk about one of the most powerful exercises I ever did in kind of my own leadership development, because I just to fill you in, I think my listeners know, I ran like a almost 7-figure chiropractic wellness practice. We like doubled our revenue or more every year for 5 years. I had 12 people working for me, and finally realized that was not my dream. But it really pushed and challenged me on so many levels, because I wasn't trained to manage that many people. I don't have a degree in business. I have a chiropractic degree and a degree in comparative literature. Like, I was not, but but I was an entrepreneur at heart. And so, one of the most powerful exercises I did was writing down all the lies that I believed about myself. And these are your limiting beliefs, right? And so, all the things that says I'm not good enough, or, I can't do this because of XYZ. And when you really look at them and flip them on their head and break them down for like what they are, they're always a lie. Right. And so, and then you got to attach yourself, kind of like that, menu that you were talking about, like the menu of positivity. Like, that would almost be, I think I had 17 lies that I came up with. I'm sure there were more, but, then we flipped them on their head and said, okay, what's the actual truth there? And really digging in and connecting to that that truth is what often launches you forward.
When you find that those lies are coming up in your mind, you have to physically like make the effort to flip it, like you said, and
Yeah.
jump into that new truth that is difficult to understand at first. But exactly as you said, just flip it around and recognize that is a lie. Here's my truth.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like it's shifting perspective. It's the guy I learned a lot of that from is Chris Lucurto, and he always talks about perspective. And we tend to have blinders on and like see the world as our experience has been thus far, and we always collect evidence for XYZ that this is just how it's going to be. I'm not, no one's going to sign up with me for coaching, or I can't run a business, or like whatever it is. We have these blinders on. I can't lose the weight. And so we have to, like, one of the big shifts that has to happen is bringing that new perspective, because that's actually where like our brain is very powerful in healing and in lots of other things that gives us that access. So
And part of doing that, I think, as well, is actually speaking those new truths out loud to somebody around
I
you,
love
friends,
that.
family.
Yeah,
Like when you articulate it verbally, you one speak it into existence.
exactly.
But two, I think you're more motivated to become that person or to live that
Yeah,
truth just because you
yeah,
said it to someone else. I think humans are so externally motivated that when you say that truth to someone else out loud, you're like, okay, now I have to do it. Or like, now it has to be true because I already said it out loud. So that's really powerful too.
absolutely. Awesome. Well, I'm going to recap what we've talked about so far just to like tie it up. And then if there's anything else we want to add, we can. But, we talked about really getting connected to the big vision, the dream, like, what do you want your life to look like? Where do you want to wake up? I love all that. And then, we talked about breaking that into smaller steps and just working through that. And then I would say our third thing was, dealing with our limiting beliefs and the lies that we believe and just shutting down that negative self-talk. And I loved all your input from there. Um, is there anything else that we can offer in this world of taking bold action, doing something that's uncomfortable, like, taking yourself on in a way that will challenge you, but challenge you to be a better version of you ultimately?
Yeah, if you take anything away from this, just doing any action will lead you closer to confidence than doing nothing. So just take
Love it.
any action.
Very cool. Love it. Um, Before we wrap up, where can our listeners connect with you if they are like, I want more Kate in my life and someone to tell me to take more, take action every day?
My coaching website is shatteredglasscoaching.com and my Instagram is shattered.glass.coaching.
Awesome. And I'll put that in the show notes too. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Kate. I really enjoyed this conversation.
Thank you, Alex. I appreciate you having me on your show.